Yep.
I can't tell it which one to do. So.
Yep. You're all set.
Okay, fantastic. Hi everybody. My name is Mica Hulme. Here with Tim.
Good morning.
And we're here to talk about the Roosevelt fire. This was a fire back in September to October of 2018. And the situation that we went through during that time. The fire started on September 15th, burned just over 60,000 acres in Sublette County here in Wyoming. It did destroy 59 homes and 20 buildings. The buildings were like, your sheds, barns, stuff like that. So the big number was the 59 homes where the people live. The highlight of this story is that we had around 90 hours of a lead time on the EVI, and that resulted in no fatalities. Sadly to note that there were actually 2 injuries with this. The people that discovered the fire were some hunters that were up near the ignition point, and they did suffer some burns from that, but that was right as the fire started. Wanted to take a quick look at kind of the overall structure and progression of the fire. You can see on the left side there, and then kind of the blue, that's where the fire started, kind of in the upper reaches of the Wyoming range. And within a day, it had started to take hold of the winds, push it to the east, and from there it spread fairly rapidly. The red circles are the different neighborhoods that ended up being evacuated. And you can see the outset images are kind of a close-up of where the fire burned into the neighborhoods. The red and yellow is the different go stages from when I got that image. So what did we do to help mitigate this loss of life and property? The number one thing that we do is pre-fire season preparedness. We do a lot of pre-season fire meetings. Most of the time we average around 6. And we do this with all of our core partners and any of the local agencies that want to join in. We try and do them in kind of centralized locations. A lot of them are in the fire agencies, the dispatch centers. Cody, Teton, and Casper all have dispatch centers, and we hold a lot of them there. That way our very wide range area that we have, we can get a lot of activity participation in that to discuss these things. We also invite our county emergency management and there as well. And we discuss our different on-site IDSS that we have available, as well as remote capabilities such as spot forecasts and stuff like that. We always bring up our WyoLink radio system, which is basically just a radio that connects from one corner to the other of Wyoming through different repeaters. And it's really useful for communication, especially in areas that don't have good cell coverage, or they may not have a phone while they're out traveling. We also do several functional full-scale exercises. We average around 3 a year, sometimes more, sometimes less. Tim, did we get any done this year with the COVID?
We did do and participate in one in Teton County this year.
Okay, we did manage to make that one. Okay, fantastic. So that's really useful as well, just having that kind of practice as we go into the season. Wildfire Ready initiative is a big part of our preparation. Currently, we have 4 Wildfire Ready units in our area. 2 are in Yellowstone, 2 different organizations in there, as well as Teton Dispatch over in Jackson, and Casper Dispatch, which is in obviously Casper. This is very similar to the Storm Ready application. The same kind of concepts apply. And this is just kind of a general look at the certificate. present to the people that do become wildfire ready. And here's a list of the different non-weather emergency messages that we have. Pertaining to the subject that we're talking about today, we have the evacuation immediate, but there's also the fire warning, which is just below that. And this is something that we discuss at both the Wildfire Ready presentations as well as the preseason meetings. Make sure that everybody knows about it, that it's available to them if they need to use it, and how it transmits. It goes out on NWR SAME as well as the 1050 hertz tone alert. So it goes off, kind of carries the same weight as a severe thunderstorm or a tornado warning. And this is kind of how Wyoming is broken up into our EAS plan. For our particular purposes, we're looking at area number 4, which is here in Sublette and Sweetwater. And this area breaks down into different stations that the alert will transmit to. As you can see here, the primary, we're not the primary for most of these. Most of these are the different radio stations that are out there. We're listed as the secondary. So if there's a problem, if it fails at the primary, it does go over to our radio. An important part of this process has become the EAS Activation Form. This was created by 2 of our emergency managers. That was Jim Mitchell and Rich Oakes of Sublette and Teton County. And this is what we use to get the information that they want on the EVI. And kind of how this works is they'll send it over, and you can see it's marked off that they want an EAS and which one that they want. Do they want the evacuation immediate, or do they want the fire warning? And then on the bottom part, which would be the second portion here, they put the text that they want, and that makes it easy and transmittable to our EVI that we actually produce and put out. And it cuts down on errors that way. Just want to take a quick look at kind of how the progression happened with the EVI. The first one that was issued was on the 17th. At this point, this is how the fire looked. Wasn't too big, but it was starting to make a fairly decent run. So the emergency manager in Sublette let us know that they wanted to evacuate a few areas. This one was for the upper Hoback area, which is this northern area, as well as the Rolling Thunder and the Jim Bridger Estates. One quick thing I want to point out is that there's a corrected here. We'll go over that in the lessons learned here in a minute, but I just want to make sure you know that nobody's perfect. So the next one that was issued, our next set, was on the 18th. So this was the biggest run of the fire. We had a pretty serious red flag day, and it was moving, if I remember correctly, at about 3 miles every 15 minutes. So that was pretty intense movement. At this point, they decided that they needed to evacuate Hoback ranches, which was this third area here, and ended up being one of the more impacted areas. And then we had a third set. The fire had kind of skunked around a little bit, started to move into the upper Hoback ranches, and even actually started to impact the Rolling Thunder and Jim Bridger Estates down in the south. And then this was the day that it made a turn and pushed into the Hoback ranches area, where it did the majority of its damage. As it was doing this, we issued 2 more for the emergency managers, 2 more EVIs, excuse me. And this was mainly for areas that were east of Highway 191. We were starting a burnout operation kind of along that highway to hopefully catch the fire and keep it from spreading to the other side of the highway. And they wanted to make sure those people were out of there just in case that went poorly. Got some images from some aerial views from a local photographer. A lot of people think Wyoming is big empty spaces where not a whole lot of people live. And in some areas that is true. But as you can see here, there's a lot of roads, there's a lot of homes that got impacted by this fire. They are somewhat spread out, but with wildfire, that doesn't always matter. Some of the products that we issued with this fire, before the IMETs were on site, Kurt von Spraybruck was the official IMET, and I ended up joining him as a trainee later in the fire. But we issued 4 spots before he got there, and numerous WildLink radio communications through that. There wasn't good cell phone coverage because the wildfire had burned over the cell tower, so that WildLink radio communications was very impactful. Of the 20 days of the fire, 18 of those days were red flag days. The only 2 that weren't was one day when we got some snow showers in the area, and then the last day when we had rain on the fire. So every other day was a red flag day. And I also want to point out that it's always a good idea to think outside the numerical thresholds for red flags. While I was at IMET on the fire, there were days where the relative humidity was in the upper 20s and even low 30s, but we still issued a red flag for the fire and the surrounding area because our winds were strong and the fire was reacting to them. The RH did not matter as much. Fuels were historically critical. This may not make a whole lot of sense to everybody, but they were at 3% for the 1,000-hour fuels. So those are big branches, tree trunks that had fallen over and died. Just 3% of remaining moisture is just crazy low. So sometimes you just got to think outside the thresholds. Going back to that correction that I was talking about, the biggest lesson learned that we had from this is communication is critically important. The first message may not always be that written text. Sometimes it is just a phone call. And in this case, that's what happened. We just got a phone call. There was a bit of confusion, and we ended up issuing this one on the left, which included the Hoback ranches, which did not actually get evacuated until a day or 2 later. So if there's any confusion, it's worth it to make a phone call to the EM or the sheriff that's issuing the EVI or wants to issue the EVI and get some clarification. That'll make sure it's right the first time. You're alleviating any extra confusion, as well as not putting any undue anxiety or stress on the public that may be in that evacuation area. Just helps out for these people that are already under a very stressful situation. And Tim, did you want to take over for this portion?
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Mica. We, after the event, our team here at Riverton, we decided to definitely do an after-action review due to the, the importance of the event and the amount of magnitude of damage that did occur. So I view this, the Post-Roosevelt Fire Partner recommendations as hopefully also a best practices and also a look back critically at what we did and what we could do to improve for the future. So Upon querying sublet Teton County EMAs who were both involved in the project, Teton, the fire, Teton County was involved basically as a mutual aid partner because of the extent of the fire into Sublette County. They recommended that the EVI and fire warning products that are that they requested and our partners requested to be transitioned from a GHG format to either polygon type of an issuance, initially with Warren Gen, and now I guess as we're heading toward hazard services now as we're segueing toward that direction. The reason being, if you can get it toward that polygon warning method, you can definitely limit the size of the warning, of course. And what we were stuck with involving issuing the EVI issuances during the event, if you issue the EVI, it's gonna be for the entire county, and Sublette County is a large county, of course. So that was definitely the initial impact. They utilized IPAWS with Everbridge software to initially issue their type of warning, and followed up with us, excuse me, involving the issuance of the EVI from the office to provide a 1-2 punch to ensure that all the folks across Sublette County and in that area were effectively warned. They did not view that as the dual warning as redundancy in a negative fashion. They viewed that as a definite 1-2 type of a deal, to where if you didn't get it the one way, you're going to get it from the Weather Service. And when you get the warning via the EVI, it's going to be directly into the emergency alert system. And you're going to see the scroll across the TV screen. You're going to get the warning via weather radio, via that blast, also on our website, and all other methods too. So there was felt that was not a negative involving that process. So with the latest information that I've been able to find out from Tim Schott at National Headquarters, the NWM products such as the EVI and all those that were listed, including the fire warning products, will be slated to be ready for potential polygon usage by early to mid 2021 with hazard services. So that's going to be an improvement. And along with that, Cap Handler, the ability for us to take in IPAWS messages will also be available in 2021. So those will be 2 improvements that will allow us that capability to be a conduit involving the warning process. So I also wanted to take just a quick mention about the Sublette County form that was developed by Jim Mitchell and Rich Oakes. I think they did a great job in putting that together, and it did provide us that exact information. So this was kind of in the middle of the event, and then afterwards that was adopted, and that EAS form is set up to where it will come to our office email account via the emergency management offices throughout our county warning area. And when they do send that message to our office account, we also receive a phone call by the EM, and they validate the information with us at the office. And we want to double check and make sure, of course, now that the message and the warning information is exact in what we want to see and what they want to see before it's disseminated. So, along with until Cap Handler is operational, we just want to ensure that they have that method to communicate that needed EVI and fire warning for wildfire products information. So I view that in the future with Cap Handler being available, that likely will be heading toward the primary method for us to just take the message that we receive and go ahead and be the gatekeeper via weather radio and send that on out. But we will continue to be a backup involved in that process in case their IPAW system fails. So I view us as still containing and getting to be a valid entity involving the NWM issuances across our area. So with the one thing I do want to stress too, they felt, and I do too, that and for our area, because wildfires in our area are the same existence as like a large-scale tornado outbreak, potentially, especially if it covers a large area. So, but because of that, we're looking at definitely continuing with the large-scale exercises that are going to be completed each year across our area, at least a county-by-county type thing. So, as much as we can, we are participating and offering those up to our emergency management partners. So not only our staff, our ops team, but also our partners can exercise, and we can find improvements to make things better. So the other objective, and that we've always worked closely with our county emergency management agency and fire partners, is to make sure that they're briefed in advance of the fire season involving, well, what's it looking like long-term, climate-wise? What pattern are we in? What should we be taking a look at involving any new technology, involving warnings and event procedures? So those type of things that were implemented in the recommendations are things that we have a checklist each year that we go through to complete and make sure that we are ready for the next fire season. Next. So the other recommendations that was talked about involve, the IMET that will be brought into our area. The thing that we want to stress with that is it's important for, we feel, to engage immediately with the IMET to kind of brief them in and make sure that they're aware of, well, in case they didn't get a good briefing and haven't been keeping up on the area, to ensure that they're well briefed involving how did it start, where's it at, where did it come from, and who are going to be the main players that they need to immediately connect with once they go to the incident command location. So, and also we want to maintain that good working close coordination with the IMET in case something does happen to the point, if there's an IMET on stationed there at the incident command, that they can let us know through the EM, or the EM can let us know, or the incident commander, however way they work it out, to ensure that if we need to issue one of those evacuation immediate messages or a fire warning, that we can be on the ready and be prepared to do that as soon as possible. So our objective is to make sure we give folks as much of a heads up, like we did with the Roosevelt fire, so that folks will have the ability to evacuate these areas. So you can see in the image here, I mean, there's no real chance of survival if you're going to be in the path of a wildfire, and unlike a violent tornado where you can get out of the way or get underground, that this is even worse. So obviously. So the other thing that our WCMs across the state of Wyoming have worked closely on has been working with Laura Grott with the state of Wyoming and Kelly Ruiz in Wyoming, involving continually making sure that our state EAS plan is updated to ensure that the contact information, any new changes to our products and so forth, to ensure that that we have that continued capability to utilize null weather radio involving the MWIN product issuances. That's really important. Next slide. So, we want to make sure that not only are folks warned, but the other important thing that we receive specifically feedback from Jim Mitchell and also the other emergency managers across our area. And this goes quite a bit with some of what social scientists that I've talked with have told me also that they've heard from previous tornado outbreaks, such as April 27th, 2011 in the Southeast and otherwise, is, you know, they want to know when initially they need to evacuate or move to safety. But the important thing in the end, they really want to know when there's that final all clear message that needs to be issued after that EVI is put out there. So that they'll know that, well, now it's safe. It's safe for folks to come back into the area, or it's safe for anyone that's involved to get back into that location to do post surveys or to look at things. So, you know, the one thing that they definitely wanted was involving the wildfire related products, our partners, both the emergency management and our fire partners we work with all the time, is having the fire warning and the evacuation immediate products added to the WIA alerts, especially for out here in the West and anywhere really. I mean, it just makes sense, and that's something it's going to have to get pushed and pressured going forward for something like those two products to be added, I've been told. So that's something that we're working on, and hopefully we can get that initiated. Next slide. Hey, Mica, could you switch to the next slide?
Hey, Tim, according to looks like to the GoToMeeting, it looks like it says offline. Can I change presenter to you?
Sure. Let me get that ready for you. Go ahead.
All right, switching
and
to you.
I'll bring it in. Apologize for the technical difficulties. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Looks like Nate just had to accept the. You should have control. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Nice.
So can you see me now?
Yep.
Okay. Well, the next thing I wanted to talk about is and deals with after the event, as we're getting close to wrapping up here. Jim Mitchell and I sat down. He viewed, just due to the size of his county, that he really was adamant about the need to partition his county and split the county into some quadrants, so that in the event of a wildfire or other related significant hazard situation going on, it would make the ability within his county for sections of that county to be able to be alerted via weather radio, and also you would have the separate FIPS code for that particular section of the county. So we've been working through that process with Tim Schott and his group at National Headquarters, and we've been assured that by fiscal year 22, that you know, when the polygon warnings are in place, that that partition ability will be again reinstituted, so that he'll be able to have that capability of having his county split into about 5 quadrants across Sublette County, and that will, just due to the terrain issues, the layout of the land and so forth, it would really work well, it was felt, by headquarters and also by Jim with Sublette County, to have this configuration put together. So this is the first look at that configuration that was drawn in, and we're going to be having a more detailed mapping and public education effort, obviously, of course, once we get closer to that time frame and it's getting to that point to where everything can be taken care of in that situation. So the ability would be obviously for that sub-county to partition to allow, as an example, the number 1, instead of the first 0 in the FIPS code, the 1 would take the place of the 0. So instead of for the entire county, that 1 would only be in that section of the county. When a warning is issued, you would get that warning for the 1 that would be designated for that part of the county, and that would not really be available for other parts of the county. So that's due to the split. So the real issue with that too, with weather radio, because a lot of folks have weather radios out there in western Wyoming, just because of also the cell phone issue, and with that being put into play, they can set that weather radio for that specific county FIPS code, that sub-county code, so that they will be able to get the warning for the area that they need it for. So let's see here. Okay, the other important thing I wanted to talk about as we wrap up is after the fire, the post-event wildfire hydrology involving burn scar issues definitely is something that all offices that have terrain that are involved in, and definitely a lot of trees and so forth that are burned by a wildfire on a larger scale, it can definitely cause quite a bit of issues when you move into the next wet season, or anytime that you have to issue flash flood warning for heavy rainfall. So it's important to work with your county, state, federal fire partners, and and also the National Weather Service. We have some folks that deal with this, and they work together to develop what's called a Baer team. And that Baer team, they all get together, and they plot the areas where and survey the damage and determine with the soil consistency what is going to be the area. The areas that, as you can see on the map, the red sections are the areas where you have the worst of the wildfire burn occur. So the importance of this is getting this plotted GIS so that we can get that into our AWIPS system within the shape files, and so that we can put that as a overlay that will allow us to be able to take a look at, obviously this area when we get into the next time frame where we may have some thunderstorms or heavy rainfall that can affect the area. So it really assists us with the fact that the burn scar that's left over will be able to be hopefully effectively warned for in this area if there's any folks that are in the periphery or outside of this area, to where you have the really strong flow from any type of flash flooding that could occur. So that's the other thing. I think it's really important to connect up with those partners if you haven't already. Make sure that you know who to get in touch with, know what to do, so that this can be done relatively quickly after the event. So it's really just I call it the storm survey for wildfires, in a sense, and it carries that not only the dual note of documenting the event so that we can keep track of a climatology in the area, but also it helps us, obviously, like I was mentioning, with the post-event burn scar wildfires. So with that, I just want to thank you all for listening and watching today, and we definitely hope that this presentation has been helpful. And the objective of this is to learn from it and to do what we can to make sure that the next time around that we increase that warning time even more. That's the objective, of course, like everyone's. And we just want to learn from it and make things more refined and do what we can to make it the best possible. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions, anything at all.